Milind, we have Milind and we have Radhika from KPMG. It's on best tools.
Sure.
Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes, we can, Radhika.
Okay. All right. So
yeah.
Cool. So this year I'm presenting only for the best tool and not the practices. I already spoke about the practices yesterday, but these are all like intertwined and they are all connected to each other. Before I start with what additional things we've done since the last year and what we presented last year, I'm going to do a very quick recap for those who have just joined and weren't there last year. I'm just going to very quickly run through it and not like go into details about it, just to give a fair idea what the tool was already and what we've built on top of that. So here's a quick recap. Initially, when I last presented, we said that our tool was already integrated with all our internal systems like HRMS, which is our HR management system, our client management system, our project management system, reporting tool, timesheets, leave management, hiring of subcons and regular lateral hires, as well as exits. So that was one of the first things we did. We actually integrated, and this became a middleware, and it was sitting in the center and talking to all our internal systems so that we don't have to make manual interventions for any of our reports or getting data from all other things. For example, if somebody exits or leaves, I would rather have that person's data flowing into the system and in real time. I mean, no point me getting to know after he's moved out of the HR because there are 2 to 3 months of notice period. So I would need to know in real time when this person has left, because then I need to do back planning, backfill planning. So we have integrated with everybody. Very quickly, this systems or this tool of ours sits across businesses that KPMG handles. We obviously do varied kinds of businesses, and it's very different from one to the other. So one size fits all does not work for us at all. So we obviously have technology consulting, but we also have a very big chunk of functional consulting, which is very specific to industries or sectors. We also have the risk consulting businesses where we have very different business as compared to like a management consulting business. We have very dynamic businesses like tax or the forensics where, even you don't even know what you're going to do 1 or 2 days in advance, or sometimes even in the morning you come to know this is what you're going to do. Like I have to file tax for certain clients, or there's a tax issue which I need to look in, or there's a court hearing. So it's very varied as compared to other predictive businesses. The government advisory business, and there, as we would all agree that sometimes things can look very different from what they are on the floor. So forecasting, planning for headcount is very different from the other technology business or the other businesses. There is a lot of part-time stuff we also do. So across businesses we have certain for example, our deal advisory, where we typically staff people on part-time basis because you don't necessarily need so much time from one particular level, but it's also at the super confidential. Even the person sitting next to you will not know what you're doing, and you actually sign various documents to make sure they are super confidential. And there's a lot of budgeting and planning that goes into a certain different type of business that we do, where it's all about budgets. So that's how different we sit up. One tool sitting across businesses, very comprehensive in the sense that it's accommodated to that kind of level. This is something that we presented last time. I'm just very quickly going to do that. The impact of bringing in one tool which is centrally visible was that we had a 96% compliance for skills information or resume information for everybody sitting in the business. There was a lot of reduction in hiring. There was a lot of cross fungibility. So, but I mean, we started in pilot and gradual basis, right? So we piloted with a few groups and then we increased to the bigger ones and then bigger ones. So it was not like we did big bang from the first day. So slowly we went on from one to the other. And then it automatically increased our cross fungibility. A lot of people were allocated from the time that we started the tool, because originally there was a apprehension to get onto the tool, and there was this thing that I'm happy with doing what I want. The change management is always a pain. Nobody likes to change really, but to slowly get them onto it, to adapt and adopt, was a challenge in itself. But then eventually we were able to do it pretty well. And the average number of utilization, depending on different types of businesses, was significant, pretty significant. There were various reports we were doing, the demand supply, or the gap analysis, the variance. Variance is an interesting part where we actually compare the schedule, what we have put in our tool, versus what is actual on a weekly basis. And there are different types of variance. Initially, when we started, there were people who were tracking time in our timesheet system, but we were not aware of the schedule because information had not come to us, or project manager missed telling us, or the resource did not tell us that they are working or not. So because we were integrated, we could catch hold in the sense that they were tracking time, but our schedules did not have the information. So we were like, what are you working on? Why don't we know this? Versus actually comparing what you are currently doing versus our current schedules. And if you're tracking less time than what you've told us, so you told us you're going to do 40 hours a week, but you track only 20 hours a week, where did the rest of the 20 hours go? So we were going down to that level of questioning and monitoring, that it was really hard to kind of negate the system. Pipeline, obviously one of the big important things, and also compliances. There were lots of various compliance that a professional services firm like us do. So all of that was tracked very diligently. Now the new focus. So that was a very quick recap of what we had presented last time, and how the tool was already there. Now we had to take it to the next level of increasing not just adoption. I mean, adoption is obviously there, but also what value and what impact the tool was bringing in especially different times. So that is what we will just very quickly cover. Balanced utilization. Now, this was a key thing because frankly, we were definitely seeing a change in utilization, but what was happening is that there were some groups who were really burning, whereas some groups were fairly okay and some groups were low on utilization, right? So that is where we thought our role played a very great significance over there, because we Syntex centrally, and we had visibility across groups. We could actually manage to see what skills and what levels of people could probably be fungible, and pull one from the other and pull and balance this utilization out, because this had become a pain point. In some groups, attrition was going on, some cost was going up because the utilization was not okay. So these things are very dynamic, and these things happen in the consulting world quite a lot. So this was the next feature, that we try and move that heavy load to people who are not as loaded. This automatically increased the fungibility because we were now moving people across functions. Okay, so like a government advisory was going to maybe a tax or probably a different function. So that was increasing our fungibility, and was also automatically improving the cost, because the optimizing the cost, because also we were not hiring as much, and at the same time we were optimizing our teams better. We were also doing a lot of part-time thing, and there was this detailed, so actually initially there wasn't much focus on pipeline. This was when we had started. Our client management system was not as updated as it should have been, because you may put in the detail of a client to begin with, but you may not necessarily update it as and when there's a change in probability, right? So, but we were very stringent about that. So we started focusing on that, in the sense that we would not allocate people if the probability wasn't high, or if it wasn't a verbal commit, or I mean, we would keep it on our radar beyond 50%, but and we would start looking for people, but we wouldn't really allocate. So people were forced to bring that discipline of updating the demands, and now it had become visible to everybody. So that visibility of demands was something which was new and it wasn't there earlier. Standardization was actually really important because, see, as we first started, our first goal was to let that adoption happen and let people actually start using the tool, let people start coming back with saying, I don't like this, or I want this also, and this is not working, that's not working. That was done. Okay, now we were at the next stage of everybody was using the tool, everybody was onto it. Now we were slowly standardizing our best practices, our tools, in the sense that our forms were accurate. They were the same CVs which were going to be used. The process was the same. Initially, obviously, it had to be customized, which still is, but the general guideline was quite was standardized. There was a need for more analytics rather than just presenting metrics. Now, there's a very big difference in just presenting metrics and having more valuable insights into what's happening. Because I could just take a dump of all the reports that come out of the system, and all tools have reports, right? So I could just take a dump, put some pivots, and then send it to my lead saying this is how the data is. But they don't have the time to look into every single detail, and who has the time to look into, when you look at an Excel sheet with like 1,000 rows, you get it. So we wanted to do some intelligent analytics and present the key highlights as to what was working that week or that month, and where was it in comparison to last year, what had changed up and down, what was the reason of the change, and where do we see it heading. So those were some additional features that we did, and of course user-friendly automation. That by far was the need of the hour. Frankly, without automation, I don't think anything would work, because nobody wants to go ahead and keep doing it manually and keep pushing. And the tool that I'm talking about, we tried to make it a lot more user friendly. The demand when a manager needs to put in literally less than 30 seconds, and if it's a lot more detailed in the sense that you put in, say, education qualification, say I want a MBA who has maybe like a engineer with an MBA who has 5 years of experience plus a manufacturing and supply chain experience of XYZ years, plus maybe some kind of logistics experience as well. So finding that permutation combination automatically through the tool and presenting only the relevant CVs and not just like going through everybody and doing a control F to try and find everybody, that didn't make sense, right? So a lot of it was automated. I spoke earlier about the integrated way that we have. It's a middleware that the tool sits, but this is what we did next now. That certain thing. Now, this just sounds very generic, but this is key. This is called the client engagement form. When you identify a client in a professional services firm like ours, we have to go through various checks, because if you are doing, say, a tax for a particular client or a particular, say, check and balance, you cannot do consulting for them and vice versa. So there is a check we have to do, a conflict check as well, so that we make sure that we cannot service a client that we're not supposed to. So there is a detailed check we have to do, and this helps us because that was a different tool, that was a different form. We now have, for one business, we have that integration, and it's a beginning for us, because this was something which is really alienated for us. We now have that flowing, and we make sure that if we are allocating or servicing for a particular client, all is well, and it's all the checks and balances are in place. Then the engagement details. So what was happening is that when you create a project code, there is a engagement acceptance form that we have to fill, which requires various details of the project, the fee, the discount, if any, or the number of months that it's going to go on, the duration, the head count, the cost, the budget, the NFR, the revenue, etc., etc. So there is a very detailed form that we have to fill. Was now integrated because we had to check that we are not breaching anything. It's in the cost. So see, this is very natural. What can happen is that if the staffing system is sitting different from what the the revenue or the budget or costing system is, the staffing team will land allocating more people without knowing that you're breaching the cost or the fee So that because the RM can say, well, I don't know that I'm supposed to allocate more than that. How do I know, kind of thing. This merger was really important. Okay, and like I said earlier, the risk checks, because we have to go through various risks, and this is like a huge chunk of what we do, what KPMG does overall. So there is no way we can afford to kind of miss this out, or take it lightly. So we have to make sure that there is enough focus on it, and it's all integrated, and we're not doing anything out. We're not doing this for something or somebody that we're not supposed to. This automatically helped us solve our conflict management, because there were times when we were allocating in different groups and different projects. So we wanted to make sure that that conflict was cited earlier, like in our offshore, a global services firm. I'll give you a random example. So, for example, if one telecom company who's a client wants to, say, look for a merger or sell or and they at the same time are they're competitors to XYZ, we have to do a conflict check to make sure that we are helping them with the respective client and not a client that we are not supposed to, because we could be servicing the other client as well. So for us to make sure that that conflict doesn't happen, we had to make sure that we are checking this before we allocate resources. Otherwise, we will end up in a conflict, and the same person could be working on a competitor. So we did that check as well. The subcontracting stuff. So when we onboard somebody who's on a contract, we needed to make sure that we are aware of it, because if we had internal availability, which now we had more than what was usual, we could use them in priority. And also we had to, if a subcontract was ending, then we actually needed to make sure that we are aware of that, and that particular position is closed. Okay, otherwise for us it could be open and we may start having people. And of course the training calendars. Now this is very important. Like, one of our businesses has to mandatorily go through various type of certifications or training before they start working on their clients. And this was really important for us to know, because imagine we sitting in the center to allocate, say, XYZ, but that person, and I go ahead and allocate him for the next month, but next month the person has 2 trainings already planned and he signed up for it. But I go ahead and allocate and I don't know. So then that would again become a conflict. And then, the client would come back saying, you don't even know that the person is not available. And that is embarrassing, right? So we had to integrate with the training calendars as well. Now, I said earlier that it's a very dynamic business, but we were now looking at very different kinds of business models that we are catering to. Of course, the offshore model, which is our global services firm, where the work is offshore to them, and the work is coming from either the US or the rest of the geography, anywhere else. How do we handle that? Because that is very different from client-facing work versus an offshore work, because that is more predictive, more streamlined. You will always have a code. Here you're more dependent on a client for the work to come, for the scope to change. The documents may not be signed. It's very different. Okay, so the offshore model. So now we had tailored the tool and added a lot of features to cater to them as well. This is the front-end offshore model. Now, this is tricky in the sense that there were people. What we did is we created a page to show availability of certain type of services that we provide, or solutions that we provide, to show people sitting maybe say in our Netherlands or Europe office, and if they would go to a client and they would, like the client would say, can you do this? But if just in case they don't have that kind of skill availability or capability or the bench, they had ready access to our information in India for that group of people with their capability experience, to see if there was anybody available here. And if that was, they could simply accept the work. I mean, nobody would say no to work, but then, you pitch in a different way, and that work could get passed on to us because they had real-time information of capability and availability sitting here, right? So that helped us, get some traction. The dynamic business models I spoke about, like the tax and forensics, where it's so unpredictable. So that was again very different of what you do in a regular world, where you have few weeks before you start a project and you know this person is going to go, etc. Here you don't know anything, so it's very different. Predictive business models, which are fairly simple, but in comparison, okay, it's not fair to say it's simple, but in comparison to the others, it was easily being able to handle. And the internal gig, I spoke about this yesterday, where we were now opening up this particular thing for the gig model for everybody across the firm at all levels, including our support functions, including people maybe who would have never thought that they can work on any other opportunity, like our secretaries or our admin staff or IT, etc. Why not? I mean, it was all inclusive and it was open to everybody, and people could volunteer and upskill or reskill themselves. And of course, mix of both. So there were some businesses who were using parts of this and parts of that, and there was a combination permutation kind of thing, which was how we had to cater to that for that business as well. The process, with certain enhancements, automatically the processes also need to improve, and vice versa. So if I want a particular process, I need to make that enhancement in the tool, or if a tool change has happened, then I need to tweak my process to marry the tool, right? So few things that automatically were interlinked were, now we had better demand visibility, which earlier was restricted to the resource management team, and it was us who were always aware of the demand centrally. Of course, the business project managers, respective managers were aware, but centrally it was only the resource management team who was aware. Now we were making it visible to everybody for people to pick and choose where they could work if they had the bandwidth, especially if it was a key interest of theirs. This is what I said, the gig option. So for short-term opportunities, people could now volunteer and say, I have, say, maybe a month available, or, of course, this was in conjunction with their project managers and partners.
Radhika, can you hear us?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry?
Radhika,
Radhika, you had to.
sorry, you may want to speed up.
Yeah, speed up,
Okay.
and
Okay.
conclude in next 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll finish in 5 minutes. I just have 2 slides more. Okay, so that I just said that about the gig thing, and people could proactively express interest, and this automatically improve cross fungibility. Now, with the cross fungibility, we were tracking a lot more hours, and we were making sure that the hours and revenue was shifted, was transferred also. So if I move to a particular business to do a project, that service line also got the revenue. Now that was something we were additionally doing. We now have a new feature where no hiring can happen without going through our system, because all hiring will only go through us. And if we don't find internal availability, we will click on a button saying push for hiring. Only then it goes to our hiring tool. Otherwise, it doesn't even reach there. So this new thing was added on, and there was a lot of approval matrix added as well. Okay. I spoke about this, that we've digitized. I spoke about this yesterday, that we digitized and standardized our resume formats. There was now profile validations and approvals, which means that when people were updating their profiles, their managers or somebody sitting centrally was approving them to make sure that the data entered is accurate. So our data accuracy improved. We had a feature called short-term availability, where, sorry, somebody's saying something. So where, I click the button and say, I have 2 hours available today, 4 hours available tomorrow. And that way we had that option of creating the I'm available option as well. Before the COVID times, when work from home was not too common, we had an option of a button saying work from home, where people could click on a button and say tomorrow or day after I will work from home, or next week, etc. I will work from home, so that the resource manager could plan accordingly in case there were client meetings, etc. We could allocate based on days, weeks, months, years, anything, any form. Okay. There were lots of notifications we were sending to improve our disciplines. There was a lot better variance tracking, which I spoke about, and we were now doing code aging. Okay, so I'm just going to very quickly cover this in a minute. We have a new budgeting subset where we do very detailed budgeting, okay, very detailed budgeting, and we had various features. This comes before we allocate or along with the allocation. Now, project manager needs to budget to know what exactly will be the revenue or the costing of the team. This also had the option of giving us pyramids or giving us actual, the checks and balances for the finance team to check whether it's accurate or not, what the manager is saying is what is there in the system. That is the kind of funding which is coming, the code creation issue, that would take a lot of time. All of that was handled in one budgeting system, just one tool which was integrated with our allocation. So we could ask for people also at the same time. One important thing I'd like to call out, which will come here actually, is that we were now using mandatorily a central team, which is like a center of excellence, which helped us save a lot of time and a lot of cost, because there was some central work we were doing, operational transactional work which could have been done by a central team. If they were doing extended hours, then all of that was tracked. If there were breach of budgets, we were actually tracking that. Now, pyramid line, even gave them a standard guideline of what the pyramid could be, so that the project managers could actually allocate their resources based, or resource managers could allocate based on this kind of pyramid. The new hires were given, like there was one percentage code saying that you typically in a project which is more than 10 people, should have at least 3 people who could be brand new hires, campus, etc., so that you give them shadow opportunities and learning opportunities. If there were project extensions, we were taking approvals. The residence location. Now, the residence location is the last thing I want to talk about, which is really important, and the rest are pretty self-explanatory. If the person was staying in a particular place, and especially places like Bangalore or Delhi, I mean, we have this across locations and wherever our offices are, and the client was, say, at a different end of the city, we would actually allocate matching their residence location zone with a client location zone. Okay, so that we reduce the traffic time, the travel time, and people could actually focus more on their lives versus just traveling. And that was a real pain. The rest is, I think, pretty self-explanatory. We had real-time availability available to everybody. Yeah, and then they could have the option to pick and choose who they wanted to work with. And that's it, actually. That's all I had. Sorry if I took a lot more time, but
Thank you, Radhika.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
sure.
This is Vineet here, Radhika. Quick question: is this going to be offering or a product that you are planning to launch in the market as well, or is it only internal consumption?
No, so we can. I mean, it is, frankly, we've had a few, not a multiple, but we have had a few client conversations as well. We'd be happy to launch. That's not the issue. The issue is nothing else. It's the bandwidth. I mean, we're just so tight on bandwidth. Otherwise, it's all okay.
No, Radhika, adding on to what Vineet said, there is a point. What it seems is it looks like more a extended human capital management tool with robust skill matrix management, workload allocation, and billability function with legal compliance built in. And it seems very bespoke because Vineet picked up the point straight on, saying that is this a bespoke tool that has been developed, mid-office tool, or is it an off-the-shelf plug and play? Because I don't see capability for plug and play.
This is plug
what is your thought?
Plug and play. Well, the reason I'm saying it's not plug and play is because each business is different. So if the business model is same, then it's plug and play, because we did this plug and play for.
It is a bespoke tool. So wonderful. No, that really helps us understand. So it becomes a very bespoke tool. What functions are you looking at tracking with it? So of course, consultants, auditors, and tax people and legal guys, is that the primary workforce you're looking at managing?
Everybody. No, we are sitting across all functions in KPMG, everybody.
So is the adherence, you said you didn't mention adherence to schedule, is that manual or automated?
Automated. So
How?
it's a mix of both. Let me explain this to you better. So the way it works is that the demand flows, the demand is there in a client service tool. The project manager raises and takes 30 seconds to raise the start date, end date, because that keeps changing, the start date, end date level. And if a particular skill, because see, the thing is that there is a dedicated resource manager for every single business unit, okay? So that service line automatically knows that what skills I'm looking for, and the resource and that demand goes to that resource manager. So the manager does not necessarily need to add a skill every time, because it pre-populates the information when somebody logs in. So that way it's automated.
Radhika, hold. It is wonderful. It's a great tool. I mean, I'm sure it's doing a lot of benefits. What I meant is work delivered, tracking capability, and adherence. So attendance, it's wonderful to look at it from that standpoint. Does it really have a desktop and interaction monitoring capability to say, so, you know, I don't need to do a manual input to say, yaar, maine aaj kaam kiya, or I work today, right? It should track on its own. Does it do that?
Yeah, so see, we don't even need to do this. See, remember, we are not in that kind of business where you need to do it everyday tracking. We don't do daily tracking. We trust the people, we trust the manager. So for example, if somebody says, I'm going to work for this month on this particular project, and the resource manager has allocated you, we only check your timesheet, that if you're tracking time as per your schedule, if you're doing it, that's fine.
Got it. Understood. It's a timesheet manual. It's fine.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Radhika, there is one question. So vis-a-vis November last year when we met and now, if you have to say one big step change that is achieved, what will that be?
Our budgeting system, because we've now evolved to a much better, initially our budgeting was very neonatal, it was very nascent, and now we've come to a much more matured understanding of how, I mean, the amount of time we put in to actually get it to that level of acceptance, and what exactly, I mean, the details that go in is phenomenal, which is mostly pre-populated, or we have the option for them to provide evidence, attach documents, attach mails. Like if a partner is traveling, I don't have the time to approve an email, attach the email, we will do it, that's fine. But there is various user-friendly options, but at the same time a very detailed budgeting option, plus the MyGig that I spoke about, which is very different, and the hiring.
Sorry, can you say the second thing again? What was it?
The second one was the internal gig option we have, which is where people can volunteer to for projects which were paid visible to everybody, which was not there earlier.
Okay, got it.
Radhika, this is Rajiv.
Hi, Rajiv.
You've been on this project for a fairly long time.
I know, I probably need to do something else.
No, that's good. There is one feature which is missing in it.
What? Tell me, I'll do it.
No. What's your roadmap? What do you think is missing in the system?
Oh, okay, you're asking me that. See, frankly, it's not, nothing is perfect, you know, I feel, and I feel it has to evolve. We still have a certain particular type of business where we are not doing that well from a tool perspective, like our tax. So I'm not saying that we're not doing, but we can do better with tax. And that is my goal, to bring something which is so dynamic in a more adaptive, streamlined fashion, like how we have our different businesses. I know it's difficult. People just on my face will tell me that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And then that's my challenge then. That's what I would
So, you know, I've been on these systems for a fairly long time, and I completely relate with you when you told Sri that this is completely different than how BPS operation runs, right? BPS is very micromanaged, very detailed, very operative, and these systems, you have to maintain a very loose property to it, because the moment you try to tighten it like BPS, right, you know, they can leave you and you'll have nobody working there, right? So that's a different stuff. Slightly more on the knowledge-intensive industry. Two areas of challenge which at least I see missing in the product. One, I still see absence of huge element of artificial intelligence into the product. You wired all the products very well. Now you're wiring it into your budgeting system and the Salesforce system, right, which is good. I think the workflows are getting appropriate, but what is inappropriate is that the business, the system is not taking decisions. You are taking still decisions in the system.
True.
That's point number one, which I think you should look for. And the second thing which the technology and the consulting sector completely struggles around with it is, BPS does not, or BPS with a lot of maturity, is the forecasting engines on it, right? Forecasting is not a word used in the technology world as well.
I don't have the time, but we are very heavy on forecasting. We are very heavy on forecasting. And last November, if you remember, I actually spoke a lot about the, forecasting that time as well in my process as well as in the tool. See, at the end of the day, if I'm using such a robust, mature tool and I cannot forecast and tell my business where you're heading, what's the point? I mean, why will they invest money in me? You know, that's really no point. We can do very detailed forecast. In fact, some of the reports we do is what was forecasted in the tool versus what is actual, what was budgeted. So we have a detailed forecasting and we go week on week saying why did like 50,000 go here and why did it not come there. So that
I didn't mean revenue forecasting. I meant manpower forecasting. If you can typically say that, you know, that sort of a stuff, that, you know, which skill sets are required and what abundance are you looking for in future, right? Even if you can monthly forecasting, you have done a wonderful job. Not many companies are not able to in technology world figure out how many Java guys they will require in a span of next 3 months. They have no clue about it, right?
No, I'll tell you that. So, no, we can forecast in terms of headcount, we can forecast in terms of availability, utilization, and revenues. Those things.
Okay. So that has been done now, right? Good. So only now the AI portion is left.
So AI actually, frankly, it's not off the charts. And in fact, the next one is mobile application because it's so complex and it's so different for each group to put that on a mobile and have it function in real time so quickly at the touch of a button. See, like I said, the challenge is not that it can't be done. It's the bandwidth. We are so strapped, I can't even tell you. But then, and you know, that is on the charts. It's nothing else.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. So Shiva, any other question from the audience, or we'll let Radhika go?
Okay. Let's move on, you know.
Yeah.
And
Thanks, Radhika. Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks, Radhika. I appreciate. All the best.
thanks, Radhika.
Thank you.